This is TeamSport Leicester, the only karting track in the UK to be built inside a piece of cheese. And perhaps the population of Red Leicester are all lactose intolerant, because only 8 people showed up to today's 50-lap race. Myself, my usual crew, and... oh no. But that's okay, we'll soldier on. Provided all goes well, it'll be an interesting fight between me and the boys. Oh, for the love of... Now this track is one of the more interesting tracks I've been on, with a very unique layout, varying degrees of grip on the track surface, and even a banked corner. Here's a quick rundown of the layout for you. So, we're going to kick things off with a long left-hander, which immediately leads into a hairpin with not a whole lot of grip on it. Then, it's a sharp right, leading up to the second hairpin of the track, which takes us to a big left-hander double apex, which takes us to a straight towards a hairpin with a slight bank on it. Then, it's a ramp up, a big sweeping right-hander, to another hairpin, a quick chicane into a left-hander, and then a down ramp into a sweeping left double apex with less grip again, and then the home straight. Now, the fact that only 8 people participated in today's race is a perfect opportunity to bring up a comment I had where someone once asked about subscriber races. Now, I don't exactly have the mind for logistics, and going to certain tracks is a bit difficult for me because I don't have my driver's license. So, what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to start posting where we're booking on in future races in the community tab of my channel. So, if you want to show up and absolutely school me, keep an eye on that tab, see if I'm booking onto a race, and you're more than welcome to join us. Anyway, let's take our place on the grid at Leicester and get this show on the road. And the lights go green and let's go racing. Now, Ellis immediately dives for the inside line, cuts me off a little bit, causes my kart to bog down, and Josh's loose interpretation of what non-contact means instead of finding the positions through racing, he simply forces the positions by barging 2 people wide and squeezing me off at the apex of the hairpin. He also finds his way through this guy in a much cleaner pass, to be fair, but now I need to get past him in order to get some clean air and actually have some space to race here. I try for the inside line down this corner, but realize I won't have the space to do it, so I try for the inside in this hairpin, which is a disaster because that immediately becomes the outside after the chicane, forcing me onto the outside line, allowing Callum through, and then allowing Ellis through. So this has been a fantastic race start, to be honest. It's left a bit of a sour taste in my mouth, and it's only going to get worse because as we come through that hairpin, I decide to take this right corner a little too fast, Perico special myself into the barrier, and then through goes Ryan. Why do I bother? But don't worry, it's going to get a whole lot worse because Ryan tries a move down the inside of the first hairpin, accidentally brake-checking me in the process and causing my kart to bog down. He does find his way through the inside of the next hairpin because the guy basically lets him through, does not, however, give me the same courtesy, forcing me into the barrier on the straight towards the banked corner. However, he gets a messy exit into that hairpin, so I find my way through around the outside. So now I need to catch up to Ryan, hopefully find a way past him, and then see if I can catch up to Ellis, and then whoever's in front of him, etc, etc. Basically get myself into this race. However, there is one key factor that I need to explain to you to understand what's about to happen. Ryan's kart is about to start degrading. The reason why that is an important detail is because watch Ryan's lines. He goes immediately for the center before he decides to actually take that hairpin. Ryan has decided to go on the defensive. He still remembers Birmingham and he still has not forgiven me for it. So he is pretty much doing everything in his power to keep me behind him. He keeps glancing over his shoulder every 5 seconds to make sure he knows where I am. Every time he comes to a corner, he takes a central entry line, which stops me from making any kind of move myself. And even on this last corner, he's still prioritizing slowing down my exit. And things are going to come to a head on this lap here because I try and go for a switchback, which fails spectacularly. And then he goes for the central line again here before entering that hairpin, exits wide, and gets a slow exit as well, which means that I bump into the back of him, and I start bogging down because that's exactly what petrol karts do in this situation. What starts now is a merry dance of Ryan slowing us both down, me catching up, and then repeating the cycle. It was maddening. Now right here is the point of the race where Ryan's car starts to fail him. He gives me a little hand signal here, which from a previous video I figured out actually means that he's lost the back end. So he's actually starting to struggle with that car, so I need to try and capitalize on that as much as I can. However, he is still pulling away because his knowledge of lines is slightly more refined than mine is, and he's acclimating to this track a lot better than I am. But here I come out of this corner slightly faster than he does, nudge the back of him, bog down a bit, and then he loses grip going through that big corner there. I almost get a sniff, but he closes it off immediately. I try for a switchback by braking earlier, but of course, because it's a petrol kart, I bog down and that lets him basically pull away. But he's still suffering, and he decides to brake a lot harsher than he has done through that corner every other time before he's taken it, which means that he's actually trying to slow me down here. He gets a messy exit out of that corner and starts to shake his hands and then immediately glances around for me again. He's looking for me. He's doing this on purpose. Again, I close up a lot of distance on his rear here, but because of my messy entry into that chicane, I can't get it done. He loses traction through that corner again, so I've started to figure out that's my opportunity right there. I need to find an opportunity through that corner and capitalize on it instead of trying these switchbacks through that corner over and over again. Past Kyle. This is editing, Kyle. Stop doing it. It doesn't work. Now, what doesn't help my case while I'm tailing Ryan is when I make silly mistakes like these. I get a faster exit than him out of this chicane, which means I accidentally rear-end him once again. I try and go for a tighter entry into this corner, knowing that that's my attack corner, and accidentally, literally, hit the apex, which is not at all what you want to do with these karts, because those barriers are specifically designed to slow you down. But what's coming up is my first real opportunity. Ryan loses his back end on one of the grippiest corners of the circuit, and then on one of the least grippiest corners of the circuit. I find the gap and don't manage to make the move, instead crashing into Ryan, even though that gap was clearly big enough. So what the hell happened there? Let's have a look. Now, Ryan loses his back end and goes incredibly wide here, so I find my opportunity, but while I'm trying to cut to the inside, I accidentally glance off of the barrier and into the side of Ryan, confusing us both a little bit there. But we're coming into lap 15, and I think this lap does an absolutely fantastic job at explaining the cat and mouse game that Ryan is playing with me here, because I am right on his bumper. He loses the back end here, putting me side by side coming out of that hairpin, which of course becomes the outside line, so I have to back off to give him space. I consider the dive bomb through that corner, but I don't exactly want to kill him to gain this position. Cough, cough, my blue helmeted friend. But as we come towards this corner, the one with the chicane after it, I still don't have the entry down right, so I have to slow down immensely to make up for the mistake I've just made. But then Ryan loses the back end going through that corner, and look how much I gain on him there. This is what has been happening lap after lap now, and will continue to happen until I find a way past. I'm practically right on his bumper again. That's how much time I've gained. And now, because of Ryan's erratic driving lines, it means that I'm also losing that time because he is prioritizing keeping me behind him here. In fact, let me explain Ryan's defensive masterclass in these two laps. I try and follow him through this corner here, but he brakes harshly, which means I still bog myself down anyway. And because I've actually lost that temporary focus, it means that he's actually completely free to take the normal racing lines without having to impede me, because he can see the distance between us now. He glances back at me again. His focus is still on keeping me behind him, but because he's got a bit of buffer room to work with, it means that he can try and take the normal racing lines. But that kart is not gripping at all, and already in the last three corners, I have gained a massive amount of distance to him. So I try and get something done through this corner here by cutting to the inside once again, accidentally glancing off of Ryan's kart, bogging down one more time. He brakes incredibly sharply, almost coming to a stop on that apex actually, just to slow me down there. He's in the middle of the track here because he knows I'm closer than the lap before. So I follow him through the banked corner, and I'm really close to him now, and he knows that. He stays central. He slows down on the entry to this corner, loses his back end here, and I nudge into him, which gives him the much needed speed boost for him to try and get some distance on me. But again, he loses the traction through that corner there, which means I'm once again able to keep up with him. I am in a painful cycle of catching up to the back of Ryan and then immediately being slowed down again, either through one of my own mistakes, his defensive driving, or me just nudging the back of him because my kart's faster than his. He just won't let me through. Look how far ahead Ellis is now. He was only a corner away when this battle started. But fortunately, that despair is going to end. Ryan gives me a signal here, which means work together, but I interpret it as a taunt, and then he goes wide, the widest he's been through that corner so far, which awards me the inside line. Finally. So I managed to get the inside line coming through that hairpin, shut him out, and semi-sarcastically returned that same hand gesture with a middle finger because I thought he was taunting me. Apparently, according to Ryan, that means work together. If someone could verify that for me, then that would be fantastic. But now, I'm ahead of Ryan. Now what? There's no catching up to the boys. There's just no chance. We all lap at roughly the same deltas, and because of that battle with Ryan, I've been slowed down tremendously. I am half a track away now, and there is unfortunately no recovering this race. I've overtaken Ryan, but he's won this battle because he has essentially destroyed my chance of catching up to anyone. The only thing I can really do now is treat this session as a hot lap session for the time being, so I'm about to be lapped by Callum Goes Karting, who was very happy to lap a YouTuber, by the way, because he's got some misguided impression that I know what I'm doing and I'm any good at karting. If he's got that impression, then I'll happily take that. But this awards me with a fantastic opportunity to observe his racing lines. He goes tight and wide through the hairpins, traditionally, hugs the barrier nice and tight, takes this hairpin perfectly, and I do my best to emulate his race line. But of course, he comes to this track basically religiously, and I am trying to follow everything he's doing. He's got a much smoother entry and exit through that banked corner there. I'm still emulating the line, but there's still the technique that he's got down. He goes for a late apex through that corner, which sets him up for that chicane better, and then he hugs both apexes nice and tight coming out of that corner there. Even through my attempts to emulate his lines, I still can't keep up with him because he comes here so religiously. He has a 100% win rate on all the 50 lap races. Now, Ryan's a fair distance behind me, so I give him a cheeky little wave and almost crash into a barrier in the process. That is karma. That could have been the most embarrassing incident of the whole race. If I had front-ended that barrier, I would have pulled into the pits, changed out of my race suit, and basically walked back home. It has been a perilously quiet session so far, so let's see if my lines are getting any better. That hairpin there I suffered with throughout the whole race because there's not a lot of grip on it, but I get this hairpin down pat because the grip is nice and it's much more traditional. I hit both apexes before the straight, which leads me to the banked corner, which I'm starting to take a little better. I'm not going immediately tight into the apex, which actually means I can carry a bit more speed through. I take the wider entry into this corner, try the late apex, which gets me into the chicane a little better. It's still a little sloppy, but my idea is there. I try and hit both apexes coming through that corner. I do actually manage to pull that off, even if the traction's a bit terrible through that corner there. I take that hairpin a little bit better that time. It's just improvement by improvement. This is an incredibly technical and very unique track, and I spent a long time trying to figure out all the little nuances. Josh found a technique that actually managed to get him through this corner here a lot faster. I can't remember what it was, and he frankly won't tell me again because I wasn't listening the first time, so just trust me. He earned the position he finished in, but I have no idea how he's done it. Fortunately, there's a little bit of tension towards the end of this race because I don't actually know what position I'm in, but I think I'm now in second to last after that messy start and being stuck behind Ryan. So I see this individual in front of me who I believe is in P6, and now I have an objective even while making silly mistakes like that. I need to catch up to this guy and overtake him so that my end result isn't second to last. And for whatever reason, I seem to have a tradition of finishing P6 in races, so this would be pretty fitting anyway. So I do my best to catch up to this guy. I keep him in my focus, I take my corners as cleanly as I can, because the only way I'm going to catch up to this guy is by taking the optimum racing line. This corner, however, still gives me a bit of grief, but it's still fun to do, and I've actually closed a significant amount of distance on this guy in the space of just one lap. So I'm going to jump ahead to the point where I actually finally get into attacking range for him. We are, of course, in the closing stages of the race here, and this guy is frantically on the lookout for me. He keeps glancing really quick, he's absolutely ragging the steering wheel, but I am catching up to him slowly but surely. But one thing I'd figured out during my battle with Ryan is The overtaking points on this track are really hard to find. I could not find them whatsoever, but fortunately, I managed to get a decent move done through here because for whatever reason, he goes incredibly wide through the double apex, essentially giving me the inside line and letting me straight through. But guess what? I was already ahead of that guy from the start. He was the guy who actually held me up and let everyone go straight through the inside line, coming out of this corner actually. So what I've done is lapped him. I have been a position ahead of him the whole time. And that's the checkered flag. This has been a bit of a disappointing race, I'll be honest, with the low capacity, the terrible start, and to be fair, even though it completely ruined my race, the battle with Ryan was actually the saving grace that kept this interesting. So what we're going to do now is we're going to pull into the pits and we're going to have a chat with Ryan to see exactly what was going on. Ryan, you wanted revenge for Birmingham, didn't you?
I am gobsmacked I held you up for that one.
You held me, but I couldn't find an overtaking opportunity.
That course is one of the worst I've ever driven.
You were defending so well, and I don't know how, I can't remember how I got past you, but...
It's this part of the track, isn't it?
Yeah, that was it.
Little tiny movement to the wheel and the course just slide out.
You held me up for so long, there was no chance I was catching up to the rest of them.
Twice.
You are?
I got lapped twice.
Yeah.
That is one of the worst courses I've ever. It's a shame.
Lock it.
You what, sorry?
Lock it. Lock it.
Oh, yeah. So, regrettably, what I could gather is that Ryan's kart started to degrade halfway through that race because he couldn't find any grip going through any of the corners, even less so than the grip we were getting, and I was watching his footage from his GoPro after the race, and every time he'd go through a corner, his revs would just disappear. Trust me, that kart was a complete tractor. Ryan is normally brilliant at hot laps, and his fastest lap of the session was 0.6 off of the pace. He is not that bad, trust me. It's just that that kart was really letting him down. This has been a pretty lame race, to be perfectly honest with you. I kind of wish there were more people. I kind of wish that the start was a lot better, and I kind of wish that I didn't get slowed down in that fight, even if the fight did turn out to be a lot of fun. Callum, of course, came first because he lives at this track, and then Josh came in second, Nathan in third, Ellis in fourth, myself in fifth, Ryan in sixth, and then the two extras in seventh and eighth. Thank you to those guys for joining on the race. You actually made it slightly more interesting, even if one of you did contribute to my complete and utter downfall. Now, I want to take this opportunity before the video ends to bring something up. A few of you have been asking why I haven't done any outdoor races, and there's a very simple answer for that. It is springtime in the United Kingdom. That is all the answer you need. As I am recording this, it is raining outside. I've just gotten home from a full day's work outside in the rain. The lads, understandably, don't really want to do a wet race at this moment in time, so we're kind of saving the outdoor tracks for when the weather becomes a bit more agreeable. Although, as far as I know, we could be going to Midland Karting very, very soon, which is a outdoor track in Lichfield. It's either Midland Karting or TeamSport Nottingham, or maybe I'll head over to Cannon Raceway by myself again because the boys flat out refuse to go to that place ever again. And if you'd like to know why, Ryan's got a fantastic video on his channel called Cannon Raceway, an indoor wet race, to explain exactly why the rest of the group have essentially boycotted the track. Thank you very much for watching this video. It was a real challenge to make this one the length it is because a whole lot of nothing happened on the track, but it was still an interesting whole lot of nothing because the guys I race with are a lot of fun to race with, and I still enjoy doing this as a hobby. So, thank you very much for the support and the subscriber milestones we've been hitting lately, which is insane. And I'll see you in the next video, which should hopefully be a bit more action-packed. Keep your eye on the community tab, and I'll post when my next booking is to see if you can get yourselves on to join in if you'd like. Until next time.